By the way, once I get that other computer fixed, Alice, we are going to go and use. If I get that other computer, if I get the hard drive, we're going to switch to the other song that I always intended to use, so that we don't get any copyright stuff. Because
that's nice.
Now that we're monetizing, Alice, right?
We are going to be monetizing.
It's only taken 693 episodes before. I don't mean, guys. By the way, I don't mean. I mean with ads. I don't mean. I appreciate you guys in the Patreon. And I know that
we have the best Patreon.
Money doesn't come easy, so believe me, I know. So
I wouldn't pay for us, so I'm very appreciative that people do.
Do we even subscribe to us? Although we have full access.
Yeah, we just automatically have access to us.
Okay,
lucky us.
All right, so there is just so much stuff. A lot of stuff I missed. Jerry's been on the ball recently. Callahan. Mm-hmm. So a lot of stuff
I've listened to some of his recent.
He catches a lot of stuff that I don't, and between he and Craig, so there's a lot of stuff I just want to get done, including this dude. I know we played the Joel yesterday. Joel, what's his name?
Yoel Roth.
Yeah, Yoel Roth yesterday. His Twitter handle is like Yoel or something. He's such an.
He's the one who wrote his dissertation on his Grindr hookups.
He's exactly everything I hate about his generation. He embodies perfectly. Okay, so we already played the thing yesterday about the trauma, right? That was yesterday? The January 6th trauma?
I don't know that we did we?
I don't remember. Okay, we'll just go through them. There's 3 cuts here.
Okay.
January 6th.
So it starts on the 6th, but it also starts prior to that.
That's correct.
In the weeks leading up, in the weeks between elections.
By the way, the lady interviewing him is Kara Swisher, who does podcasting stuff too.
Yeah.
She's
terrible.
Joyless. Absolutely. She's exactly why you don't.
Her Twitter persona is like joyless also.
Oh.
Day and January 6th. Twitter moderated hundreds. I think the final number ended up as like 140 separate tweets from just at real Donald Trump that violated various policies.
Yes, he was good at that.
Integrity policy. Yeah. Every morning it was a new tweet. Much of it was recirculating some of the same narratives, and all of it was focused on the ultimately false claim that the 2020 election had been stolen. And so we're going into the events of the 6th, and there's that context. There's the centrality of his account in circulating.
So you let him get away with it for a long time, in other words.
Well, we'd been enforcing on it, right? So we restricted the tweets. We put warnings on them. You couldn't like them. You couldn't retweet them. But we didn't ban him because it was a relevant part of a moment in American politics.
Right.
The events of the 6th happen. And if you talk to content moderators who worked on January 6th, myself included, the word that nearly everybody uses is trauma. Mm-hmm. We experienced those events, not some of us as Americans, but not just as Americans or as citizens, but as people working on sort of how to prevent harm on the internet. We saw the clearest possible example of what it looked like for things to move from online to off. We saw we saw the way that rhetoric about a stolen election was being mobilized on sites like the Donald.win.
Sure.
We saw the trafficking of this content.
Of course, the Donald.win. I remember that. Man,
we were all over that.
Everybody's go-to, right?
So many people use that for news.
We saw this action, this content being put out there. We saw it, and we were all traumatized. You bitch! You bitch! My goodness, I can't imagine.
Be more traumatized by your Grindr dissertation and less traumatized by like somebody tweeting something
that means if you're traumatized by that, you don't know what being traumatized is.
Yeah.
You are a spoiled little bitch. Oh God. Okay.
But what are you worried about these Twitter files coming out? And what was that experience like having Kellyanne, who's always in control of herself, sicking this MAGA trolls on you?
It's terrifying. I thought I was going to be a...
This Kara Swisher is a piece, too. This is... it's one bitch and one miserable thing. What a crew this is. They're so not fun. The wacko left is just not fun at all.
College professor for a living.
Mm-hmm.
I got a PhD and was doing research that nobody cared about, and then I was like, oh, this platform thing is cool. Like, I can go and do research there, and then, one thing led to another. And all of a sudden we apply a misinformation label to Donald Trump's account, and I'm on the cover of the New York Post. And that is a deeply terrifying experience. And I say this from
Bitch. I'm on the cover of the New York Post. Oh my goodness. Imagine when big media platforms feature you or don't feature you. Imagine being tampered with by a big monolith. The biggest bullies in the world, these people on the left, in the
Trish
moment...
says Tucker's right. Testosterone levels really are going down.
Yes.
a position of unquestioned privilege as a cis white male. Like, the internet is much scarier and much worse for lots of other people who aren't me, but it was pretty fucking scary for a long time.
What was the
as a
scariest
result
part?
of that?
Can I tell you something?
You know, when you get targeted in some
Yes.
The internet is all pretend.
Yes.
Nothing about the internet can be scary unless you're a kid and someone's showing you a jump scare video.
What's the jump scare video? Oh, is that what
Like
something
when
pops
it's
up?
like
Yeah.
focus on the dot and then all of a
Right.
sudden there's like a zombie. Like that's the internet isn't scary because it's fake. It's on a screen. You
But-
can set your phone down. I don't.
Yeah, and if you're a grown man, you're going out and telling an audience full of people how scared you are? That's weird. Men don't do that. What the frig?
Well,
Let me
also
tell you how
don't
scared
be-
I was. What? It's not a good thing that so the only two things I know about him so far is that he's been traumatized and scared. These are things that you would not showcase about yourself in another time. I didn't have the intestinal fortitude to keep my composure. That's right. I had fear in me. Well, I mean, do we think that fear
ways,
breeds
it's
rationality?
hard to differentiate between what is somebody just online trying to rattle you and what's a real threat. You see in
They're all people online trying to rattle you. Okay,
Yeah,
dude.
there's no real threat.
things like Pizzagate that online conspiracies can mobilize very real and very direct offline violence. And I worry about that. I had been doxxed years before by teenagers, actually. They're always behind it. But, you know,
And they scare me too. Well, if it's teenagers, then maybe you don't really have a reason to be scared.
Right.
And if it's Pizzagate, the one incident in 2016 where somebody walked into a place with a shotgun, did not shoot anybody, etc., has been arrested and prosecuted, one psycho. It's not the Pizzagate massacre.
Right.
It's a psycho walks into a pizza restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, my goodness.
I saw those harms. I experienced those harms. And now it was
He experienced those harms? What harms? The teenagers doxing him? Oh my goodness. Everybody knows where Jan Josh's house is. Wow.
Joel Roth.
He experienced those harms. Imagine this is a job interview, and the first thing I know is he experiences harms, he's scared a lot, and he was traumatized.
those harms through a mainstream news outlet being held up in the Oval Office by the former president of the United States. And that is deeply terrifying.
What a puss. I can't even begin to understand.
Let me just tell everybody, and I dislike Trump tweets as much as the next person. Trump tweets don't harm anybody. They're stupid, and sometimes they're offensive. And sometimes they're wrong, like saying if you think the
Yes.
election was fraudulent, that justifies him overturning the election from 3 years ago.
Right.
But they literally don't hurt anybody because they're words on your phone.
All right, this is my favorite cut of all here.
Okay, Babylon Bee, which is what got him to buy the thing, I think.
That's the
one which was not particularly funny. The Babylon Bee's Man of the Year is
Let me tell you something. This person, this thing, Kara Swisher, whatever that person is,
Yeah.
can you imagine her ever finding anything particularly funny? Ever?
No.
There's no joy there.
There's no joke.
thing, I think.
that's the
one which was not particularly funny. The Babylon Bee's Man of the Year is Rachel Levine. Not funny.
You hear? Not funny.
Not funny at all.
Well, it is
not
kind
amusing.
of funny because
It's funnier
there's
than
a-
any joke Kara Swisher's ever made.
Right.
Let's put it
Kara
that
Swisher,
way.
here's what's funny, okay? There's a man dressed ridiculously, pretending to be a woman, and we're treating him as if he is one. Not only that, he's the historic first woman in his job. There are many insane things there, Kara, to laugh at because it's effing absurd, and everybody knows it is, unless they're playing a game, which is what you're doing.
Yeah. And you can
I
ask,
didn't agree they should have taken that down, but go ahead.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting to think about what the competing tensions around that are. And I want to start.
Your generation of dudes with feminine voices who have vocal fry makes me want to get up on the stage and strangle everybody I see. This is competing tensions. Oh, shut up, you millennial. Shut up. Today's marketing class, we're going to learn about competing tensions. Oh, I'm getting smarter.
By acknowledging that the targeting and the victimization of the trans community on Twitter is very real, very life-threatening, and extraordinarily serious.
The targeting. What does targeting mean of the trans community on Twitter? Does that mean criticizing? Does that mean critically asking questions, debating issues? Is that what that means? And it's very real and it's very dangerous? No, it's not. No, it's not. And if it is, then you better tell your buddies who are self-harming because of Twitter to get off Twitter and get a battery of shrinks.
Trans people are definitely at greater risk for a variety of things going on in their lives. And we can have a debate about why that is, if it's like a chicken or egg thing, you know, the mental health issues and all this other stuff, the risks of, you know, that come with turning tricks and other things. But Twitter, while it might hurt trans people's feelings, is not dangerous to trans people. Because once again, just like Donald Trump's tweets, people tweeting at you that you're not the sex you feel that you are is not dangerous to you. People could tweet at me that I'm a man all day long, and I would not be in harm's way.
Right.
I mean, like, it's not dangerous. Nothing bad happened to me. People just tweeted something. Like, I don't get what the problem is. If you don't like, I mean, and that does happen to straight people too. Do you remember why Milo got suspended?
He talked about being molested, right?
No, that's why he got banned from CPAC and a bunch of other stuff. But he originally got suspended because of the Leslie Jones stuff.
Oh, right.
Do you remember that? Because
Ghostbusters.
Yes, and he called her a black man. He was like, she's just another black man who's into me or something. I forget exactly what it was. But, I mean, like, he misgendered a straight person, and like a bunch of his little online trolls thought it was funny and were trolling at her, and I don't know. But the whole thing, like, being called the opposite sex doesn't actually hurt you, especially on the internet, because you can lock your account, you can turn off Twitter, you can go outside, like
yeah, but and also sticks and stones will break my bones. Names will never hurt me. Isn't that in the Bible? I don't know.
It's not in the Bible.
Here's the thing: like, who cares? Who cares what somebody types on their machine? Somebody in Poughkeepsie types, spends their time drinking orange juice, lukewarm, and trying to find a way to hurt your feelings on social media. You're gonna afford that person a chance to actually hurt you? Who cares? Who cares? None of this matters.
It's so bizarre.
God.
It's so bizarre that we're, you know, and there's been struggles with young people in social media and depression and suicide and this stuff and bullying online. But what's incredible is that we've now extended all that to like actual adults. Like, teenagers' brains aren't developed. So when a bunch of their peer group calls them bad names on social media and ostracizes them, that's actually like devastating to their world, because they don't fully understand like the scope of reality, and that the stuff that their friends are saying on Snapchat isn't everything in the universe. But adults are supposed to know better, because you're supposed to have stuff going on in your real life where this doesn't bother you.
Right.
We have seen from a number of Twitter accounts, including libs of TikTok notably, that there are orchestrated campaigns that particularly are singling out a group that is already particularly vulnerable within society. And so, yeah, not only is it not funny, but it is dangerous, and it does contribute to an environment that makes people unsafe in the world.
I think that is horse bleep. It contributes to an environment that makes people unsafe. Well, there you go. There's your catch-all to ban anything you want.
Right.
You're contributing to an environment.
Mostly libs of TikTok posts more pro-gay, pro-trans content than anybody else on Twitter. Mm-hmm. It just so happens that they don't agree with it, and most of their following thinks it's insane. And so, I mean, but they're putting it out there, straight, uncut stuff right from the source. You would think if they thought they had such great points to make and their culture was so compelling and thorough and that they have science on their side, that they wouldn't mind libs of TikTok putting their own words out there completely uncut. But they know that their stuff doesn't hold up to any kind of scrutiny. So if people see the stuff they actually say, right, they think they're all nuts. Right.
So they would rather have us not have heard from the professor who was talking about minor attracted persons last year. It would have been better, they feel, that guy not be unearthed and not be found out.
Right. Or all the elementary school teachers talking about how they talk about pronouns to their students and are, flying.
And come out to them.
Right. I cried when my students said they accepted me for who I am.
They never say my students. It's always my kids.
My kids, right. Okay. My kiddos.
So let's start from a premise that it's fucked up. But then, again, let's look at what Twitter's written policies are.
My feeling about UL is that this big a pussy should not have the privilege to use swear words. Like
he doesn't get the F word?
No.
Twitter's written policies prohibit misgendering. Full stop. And
misgendering is what Rachel Levine is doing.
Right.
It's not what we're doing. He is extorting us, daring us to not play his game. Rachel Levine is a dude in a dress who doesn't look like a woman, doesn't really sound like a woman, is not a woman. He can do everything in the world. He will never be a woman. I'm sorry if that's mean-spirited, but that is the truth that 10 years ago we would get a no duh response to.
Well, right. Then it gets hidden in this thing of like, well, can't you just be nice? What's wrong with just respecting what somebody wants to be called? If somebody wants to be called a certain name, you just call them that name. No big deal. Like, it's just being polite, all this stuff. But then they use that as a cudgel to bully you. And of course, I mean, I think you and I both, and everyone we know, when we know particular people or work with particular people who want to be called something, we just call them that because you're not imposing some whole worldview on me with it and like needing to talk to my kids about it. Like, that's right. The thing is that's what bothers me about that's what bothers everyone about this whole thing is like, most people are sympathetic and kind, and if you have a mental illness that causes you all this great distress, are willing to do what we need to do to, like, not make you feel bad, because most people are generally, like, pretty kind to people around them and don't want to make people feel bad.
Well,
right?
Yes, and also I have a caller, Christine,
of course,
who is a trans woman, so she's a biological male.
Right.
And I call her, and I call her Christine. And I even make woman jokes to her. Mm-hmm. And you know why I do that? I call her those things? Because a little while back, she asked me to. She never told me to. She said, do you mind? This is what I'm doing. This is how I present. This is whatever. And like, why wouldn't I? If I wouldn't care, somebody who's a friend or somebody who wants you to do something, didn't ask me to opt in to world of fake gender stuff like that. Just said, this is what I do. And by the way, if you don't, she also won't get upset.
And she's not like, not only do you have to do this, but you also have to think it's awesome if I wear lingerie and read a book to your kids.
Right. She doesn't do that at all.
Because most people are just normal and trying to live life. And that's what's so offensive about all of this is that they're trying to impose a whole thing on you and make you agree with this whole thing. It's much, much more than what they're trying to sneak it in under the radar is like, just be nice to people.
And the Babylon Bee, in the name of satire, misgendered Admiral Rachel Levine. Twitter
Satire.
nominally, but it's still misgendering.
Okay.
And there can be a very long and academic discussion of satire and sort of the lines there. Interestingly, Apple tried to tease out this question of satire and political commentary in their own guidelines, which I think are also fraught. But we landed on the side of enforcing our rules as written.
And that's how it got bought by Elon Musk, just in case you're interested. He was mad about that. I remember that.
She seems like a whole bunch of fun. My goodness. It was like Venom. Ugh. My God. All right, another thing I want to get to, and this is also inspired by today's Sherry Callahan show. Mm-hmm. I totally missed that James Woods was on with Tucker. Did you know that?
No, I know he was featured in the Twitter files that dropped because
Right.
there was discussion in particular about censoring him because his account had too much reach and all
So
that
he's
stuff,
been
yeah.
so censored everywhere, etc. The last thing that I remember him being last time I remember him being acceptable to the world was like right before you and I got together. He was on Entourage a couple spots, and then that's
Well,
it.
Entourage is fully unacceptable now anyway, which is funny
yeah.
because
Oh, my God.
that's like talk about the era, talk about like how much the culture shifted in such a short time. Like Entourage was huge in like 2005 when I was in college. Everybody watched that.
Mm-hmm.
And now like everything about that show is totally like misogynist, like unacceptable, the whole thing. There's nothing good about that now. Like nobody rewatches Entourage. And that was like the hugest thing.
It was right after that.
That was
over.
like the hugest thing in the world at that time.
Is that like when the world is that when it was that was over and when Mad Men ended? Is that when all the testosterone dropped?
I don't know. Entourage isn't even really that great a show.
I enjoyed it though. It was kind of addicting in a way.
I enjoyed like the meta thing of having celebrities play themselves.
Mm-hmm. And they were all
similar
psychos.
to how like the Curb Your Enthusiasm has that too.
Yes.
And stuff, and like I like that, and that's funny. But the show itself I thought was kind of dumb, but
Maybe
like with the fellas in there.
Oh, I loved it.
Whatever.
I got into it.
But that was huge when I was in college. And I remember it being huge because the dorms didn't get HBO at that time. And that was before like streaming platforms like HBO Plus. And so, I mean, people got in trouble for downloading it illegally because there was no way to access it if you lived on campus. And it was like a big deal that it was a whole thing. But it's all the TV from that time period, from like the time period when I was in high school and college, is like totally unacceptable now. And it's really wild to me how much it's shifted because all of that is like completely memory hold that was the mass media culture and like nobody talks about it. And it's odd. It's odd in the context of what came after, where all of Hollywood and these celebrities and left-wing people and everything are now like so towing the line of the wokeness and the feminism, and like there's no anti-trans anything. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like,
totally.
Everything's like it's inconceivable that a show like that could be made now.
Right, and certainly like Mad Men. Mad Men is a show starring characters who almost to a person would be Republicans.
Well, definitely today.
No, well, today, absolutely.
Because,
but I mean, all of these guys. I mean,
I think Peggy's probably a Democrat.
I don't think so. I think she would look at the weak women and say, "What is? You think you're tough because you're burning?"
Then in the 60s?
I don't know.
So I can't speak about this as with the informed consent that I would like to, and I can't speak as intelligently as I would like to. But when you see your name on an enemies list, you want to say to your enemies, really an interesting thing. When you declare somebody as your enemy, they can now say you're my enemy too. And it's a funny thing about the Constitution. I tweeted something today about James Monroe. You know how old James Monroe, President of the United States, by the way, later on, you know how old he was when they signed the Declaration of Independence?
No.
He was 18 years old.
Wow.
18 years old. Okay? John Adams was 19 years old. You know, they talk about, these old white men wrote the Constitution. They were teenagers fighting for an independent way of life, fighting for rights, the most precious of which was the right to free speech. And the government of the United States conspired to take my free speech and throw it in the gutter. And there's something that they should fear more than anything they have ever imagined in their wildest dreams. The most dangerous man to these corrupt, vile vermin is an American who's not afraid of them. And Joe Biden and all those rats who work with you at the DNC, to close down my speech, I am not afraid of you. And I'm coming for you.
Ooh.
Amazing. What do you think of Elon Musk so far?
Well, without Elon Musk, Hunter Biden would still be, and I can't say this because I don't know the facts, but it seems like he's been involved in some pretty interesting chicanery on behalf of the big guy, whoever that may be. We don't know for sure. So I don't like to say things I'm not sure of. But, you know, I think Elon Musk has very possibly saved America. I think the ship of state has been on a course rivaling the Titanic. And I think what Elon Musk has done is spend a lot of money, like I did in that lawsuit against the guy who lied about me. You know, you spend the money and say, I'm gonna do this because it's so important to my survival and my well-being. And I think Elon Musk loves this country. It's clear that he does. Why would he spend all that money on Twitter, this rat-infested app? You know, why would he do that unless he could see its value? You have to understand something. You know,
I like how he says rat. Does that remind you of anybody else?
The Democrats were happy to say, well, it's a private site. It's not like it's the town square. You know, they can say whatever they want. Of course, they're not saying it now that Elon Musk owns it. But it was, in fact, the town square. It was, in fact, a forum for free speech. And if you have a town square where only some people are allowed to use it, then you don't really have a free country. We know in this country what it was like when certain citizens weren't allowed to speak, when they had to step off the sidewalk because a person with different skin color was walking down the street. You know, and I'm not going to compare anything to what black people in America went through because there is no comparison. There is no comparison. But it's okay.
All right, I'll leave it there. It's good to hear him talk.
Yeah.
He sounds good. I wish he'd do more.
Yeah. Speaking of free speech, by the way, the Media Matters guy, the same one who coordinated doing Twitter, especially since we were just listening to Fox, they're all after people to call up their cable companies and tell them not to let Fox get away with their carriage fee rate increase. Because Fox, they have scared off all Fox's advertisers, which is why Tucker has no advertisers now except MyPillow and special vitamins or whatever.
Pat Boone, yeah.
But Fox still makes money because they have great deals with the cable companies where they make really big carriage fees. Because A, a lot of people watch Fox, and B, they own other stations like the Fox network TV stuff that all comes in a deal, you know? So all those same people they're still trying. They want to make Fox less lucrative for the people that own Fox, you know?
Of course.
So they're trying to get people to organize against that too. There has to be a line somewhere. There has to be a point at which people say, stop it and don't engage. But I honestly think it's going to have to come to continuing to expose these people because it's really just a coordinated campaign to try and get certain people to shut up. And that's all that they do.
Yeah. I just don't understand. I mean, I'm not there, but I don't understand how people just don't tell them to F off. If I had a small business, it's like, Jesus, F off.
Yeah, but it's the bigger companies that get scared because these people get a bunch of like activist-y people to call them and tweet at them and all this stuff. And then the big company gets scared that this is like actually a thing.
Well, yeah, and also a lot of these bigger companies, of course, have internal DEI officers. So human resources is
Right.
also the woke center, and they have a hand in policy. They probably also work with legal and probably was telling these people, you know, if ever you have to defer to legal, it's always a bad thing to do anyway. But
Yeah, they play it safe. Speaking of legal, can we switch gears now?
yeah.
Because Mark Sardella tweeted this story out today. And I mean, some of this he had covered before in previous articles, but I just love this story so much. And, you know, Phil emailed yesterday about the mascot stuff too, that a bunch of schools are still trying to change their mascots and their logos and whatever.
This is my entire third hour today in Connecticut is Farmington. The Farmington out of equity is discontinuing the holidays for the Jewish holidays are now gone for kids in school, and the Diwali holiday is now gone. You can't have that. That's out of equity. This is the same place that out of equity last year got rid of the name Indians for its sports teams and made them Riverhawks, which seems to be the go-to for every woke town. So out of equity, the Indians now have zero representation.
Right.
Excellent.
Yeah. So Wakefield is one of the towns where they had a Warriors, and they had a Warriors logo that was designed by somebody who I think, Mark can correct me if I'm wrong, I think he was Native American or knew the family that was Native American, whatever. Anyway, they had a Native American logo, but they decided that wasn't acceptable anymore. And so they went ahead and changed their logo. And unfortunately, they changed it to the exact same logo as Ohio State University that makes a lot of money from that logo.
So now, obviously, this is fantastic. I'm all for it, and I think next time, for the next composition, the next comp they put together, they should go just steal directly from the Dallas Cowboys.
I know, just
Why
make
not?
it the Patriots logo.
Yeah, why not?
Although
Pat
the Patriots logo is probably problematic too. Acton Boxborough, this was in the story Phil sent us, got rid of theirs was the Colonials. So that's gone. That was because.
So wait, because colonists are.
Because colonialism is now associated.
Oh,
with,
I
like that's
see.
very bad.
Because it's associated with
Yeah.
something. Oh, I see.
So that's bad.
Did
Colonialism
we have
is
colonials
bad now.
in this state? a few
That's
hundred years
Acton
ago?
Boxborough. Yes.
Yeah, did we have
yes.
colonials? Okay.
Yes, we did. So the Lexington Minutemen and I think probably the Patriots are up there as teams that are like on the list because because they don't stop, right? Like they don't go like, oh, we got rid of the Washington Redskins. Now we're comfortable with everything else. It's cool. Like they just push for the next thing.
Well, right.
They're not going to run out of logos to get rid of.
With the Minutemen, it's very likely that yes, these people shot white Anglo-Saxons in uniforms,
So
but
and this is
mostly they
fascinating.
probably shot other people during indigenous violent visits, mostly peaceful visits to the colonials'
Speaking
villages.
of mostly peaceful indigenous people, did you realize that there's actually a King Philip school district in Massachusetts? There's a King Philip Regional School District. It's down like in Wrentham and
You know
what did I say?
I knew there's a
Pembroke?
King Philip school. I thought
There's a King Philip Regional High School. It's Wrentham, Norfolk, and Plainville. So they have, but they're about to also lose. Their logo has King Philip's head on it, which I assume is out of respect. You don't name your whole high school because the legislature has a bunch of bills trying to get rid of the mascots statewide, right? To try and tie the state funding to it, as you know from Connecticut too.
Sick people.
So they're trying to get rid of them all. And
King Philip was a big murderer, so get rid of him. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
I am too. He killed a lot of Shaddocks in his war.
Dirtbag.
By the way.
Yeah.
Also known as Metacom, by the way.
Mm-hmm. He was an a-hole.
Yeah, no, not a great person, as it were. But I think the high school's named after him out of respect.
Because he was
I think
a fierce
they like him.
a-hole.
Right.
As a matter of fact, he stood where we stay in Avon, Alice?
Mm-hmm.
there's a King Philip Rock, I think it's called, on top of that old Avon Mountain,
Yeah.
where he stood and watched, took in the sight of the colonial village he had just burned to the ground.
I bet he did.
Yeah.
I bet he did. Trisha's cousins went to King Philip Regional. So,
Uh-oh.
yeah, they're going to lose that probably.
So,
but
but
to
does
go
the
back
left
to...
know why?
No.
Because you know what happens next?
What?
Is the move will be on some years from now to change everything into Indian names. Like it should be, shouldn't it?
If you like Indians, I guess you would want it.
Except for the thing is that we took it, and so because we live in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
I assume did they already change the state flag?
No, the state flag they haven't changed yet.
That better change.
I'm sure it's on there.
As long as Rhode Island got rid of plantation, even though that had nothing to do.
And Plymouth Plantation.
Rhode Island plantation, though, Providence Plantations is not about slave plantations.
Neither is Plymouth Plantation.
Right.
But whatever.
Yeah.
So
okay.
anyway, to go back to Mark's article, though, Mark Sardella, this is his article in the Wakefield Daily Item that he posted. You can find it on my Twitter, and you can see the two logos side by side. So, like, Wakefield just did, like, you know how Ohio State's, like, the big red O, and then it says Ohio State kind of across it. And then Wakefield's looks the exact same, except it's a W for Wakefield, and it says Warriors across it. So that's the new logo. Mm-hmm. Except it's not because they got a mean letter from the attorneys at Ohio State who make a lot of money by selling things with their logo on it and from their sports teams and all that stuff. And so Wakefield has had to go back to the drawing board, and they're just like, at this point, they're so drained by trying to do this because they don't know how to change a logo because that's who's on the school committee in Wakefield. They know how to be upset about a logo, but not how to make a logo happen. So they've just ignored now the whole process. They have like a whole written process for how they're supposed to change the logo and like narrow it down to options and present them and the whole thing. They're not doing that. They're just going to the high school art teachers now to design something. So they're out of ideas, and they just want the high school art teachers to do it because they don't know what to do. So that's where Wakefield is. But, like, I mean, and not to, like, plug my own stuff too much, but, like, when I was talking to John Featherston and had that podcast about, like, why local races and local committees matter and all this stuff, and he's served on a bunch of this stuff. He's been a selectman and on the Board of Health and all these things. And, like, that's why these committees matter, because you need to have not just not crazy, but you need to have competent, sane people on these committees who like know how to do things or know that you're not allowed to use the logos of Big Ten schools for your high school or like, no, you know what I mean? Because like these people are so full of like woke, stupid stuff that they're absolutely incompetent.
Well, look at the Melrose superintendent with the budget. You know, she was worrying about de-emphasizing Halloween, and that's fine, and they did. And meanwhile, the kids want to commit suicide, and the school is way over budget.
Yeah, they lost $2 million.
And she'll go get another job at another woke place now.
Yeah.
Want to do some KJP? We don't really have any chat. I'm sorry. What did I call it?
Chelsea
Fire Wicked Hot Sauce, as a matter of fact.
We do have Chelsea Fire Wicked Hot Sauce, but we don't have calls on the Chelsea Fire Wicked Hot line.
I know. That's because you patronized everybody else. And
I shared them all.
Take time out of your schedules and do this for me. I deserve it.
It's okay, Daddy. You can call back.
My goodness, Alice. Why am I not signed into anything anymore?
I don't know.
I don't get this.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
I'm signed out of I've had to sign into everything.
Is it because it's a different computer?
I got all this done yesterday with you. This is maddening. I'm angry at this.
Okay.
I'm looking for my copy because I don't have it printed out for reasons I can't talk about.
I'm out of magenta ink, that's all.
Check my Galaxy S21 5G. Which we don't have.
I don't know where I put it.
Okay, that's great.
Pepper's probably
It's a
lying
perfect.
on it.
Fucking...
Pepper's on it. Hang on. I can check my Galaxy S21 5G. Hang on. Yes, it's me. Allow. Did it work?
What's happening?
I said allow.
Okay,
on the
yes. Okay, there you
Galaxy
go.
21
okay.
5G.
So now thank you for letting me into my email. Of course, I don't have.
You find your copy points?
No, I don't have it because I can't get into my work computer. That's fine. Chelsea Fire hot sauce.
Wicked hot sauce.
Chelsea Fire Wicked hot sauce. It is available at Market Basket.
Do you want me to find it?
No, that's fine. It was inspired. It's proud to be a federally certified disability-owned business. It was invented, branded, and incorporated originally in Chelsea, Mass. It was inspired and named after the great Chelsea fires of 1908 and 1973. Chelsea Fire Hot Sauce will donate 5% of its wholesale and retail purchase price to the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation, assisting families and coworkers with counseling scholarships and support programs. So you can go to Market Basket, you can go to Stop and Shop, you can go to a lot of Whole Foods have it. It is all over the place. It is a best hot sauce. I actually was downstairs today. I cooked a bunch of. This is tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I actually hurt myself. I used so much of it.
Mm-hmm.
I cooked first spinach. Put Caesar dressing on the spinach. Then I cooked in a frying pan. A little bit of butter. A lot of Chelsea Fire Wicked hot sauce. And it was delicious. And then I made one of those little chicken noodle soup things from Awaken 180 Weight Loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I put like a half a bottle in. And that was delicious and then hurt. And then it was delicious. It
is available at Whole Foods in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Florida. Market Basket in Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Maine. Big Y in Massachusetts, Connecticut. Stop and Shop
Ooh, I
Local
like Big
Rack
Y.
in Massachusetts. And Walmart Marketplace. It's also on Amazon. It's incorporated in Chelsea, Massachusetts, and manufactured in St. Augustine, Florida on Alice Shattuck's bucket list. I'm going to go to the factory if I ever go there.
Yes, let's go. All right. So we pop in with KJP?
Sure. Let's check on KJP.
Go ahead. Real fast, Corinne, just real quick on Twitter, because you guys said you're keeping a close eye on Elon Musk's ownership, and it's the first time we've talked to you since you released the files a few days ago. Is it the White House view that decisions at Twitter were made appropriately in terms of decisions to censor this reporting ahead of
She
this?
has such a puss on her face.
She's not in a good mood today. Something was wrong. She was really rippling
Man.
at all the reporters today.
By the way, I got to say something else.
You think she's hot?
No. Jesus, Alice!
I'm scared when you say that like
No, but you got her on the right track. Not her.
that. Okay.
I'm going to say two things tonight here I do regret, and this has to do with somebody who was raised in Connecticut.
Okay. AOC?
No, she's not raised in Connecticut.
Oh, I don't know. Where is she from? Oh, like somewhere in New York,
Long
right?
Island.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's Connecticut, basically.
All right. I have a thing for Jen Psaki. I do. I've always thought she was cute. And now she is on the Sunday shows, and she's really good. She's an instigating a-hole, but she always brings a take. Like Donna, whatever, can be lazy. Some of the others can be lazy. Psaki is very good at that. She is a thinker, and she is a lot of these flacks, especially ones from the left, when they get on TV, a lot of them will just continue to flack.
Right.
She is in there duking it out. She is putting interesting takes together. She's hitting some Democrats sometimes. She's putting. I have a one legit crush on her. Two, I am now on Team Psaki. I understand that she was a terrible and lying press secretary.
Morgan points out she's good at her job. I mean, she's definitely better than Corinne
Yeah, although I
Jean-Pierre
don't
in
know
terms
that
of just pure competence.
She's much better than Corinne Jean-Pierre. I do think that Psaki wasn't one of the elites because she constantly had to gaslight, and that shows a general lack of creativity.
And like the dunks.
Yeah, right.
Psaki bombs.
That shows a
Sorry.
lack of creativity. So, but I'm on Team Psaki now, Alice. And
Morgan says she's also a woke psychopath, but you're into psychopaths.
I am into psychopaths, especially little cute redhead psychopaths. I'm all for it.
You mischaracterized actually what I actually said and took it out of context when you asked her a question. Look, when I answered the question, and I actually already addressed this about how the White House and the administration is seeing what's happening on Twitter. We follow also what's going on, just like you guys are reporting and just like you guys are seeing. And what I was commenting to is like, yes, we're seeing what is happening, just like you all are seeing what's happening with Twitter. So just want to clear that up because you definitely mischaracterized what I said or put it out of context. And so can you ask your question again?
Yes, my question was that you had said, I think 6 or so days ago, that the White House was watching closely the situation at Twitter after Elon Musk's ownership of it with respect to misinformation. And because these files were released
oh my goodness.
on the basis of, hack materials clause at Twitter, decisions were made to censor reporting leading up to the election. My question was, is it the White House view that these decisions were made appropriately in light of what has come out?
Which decisions? By whom?
By Twitter.
By Twitter okay. So, look, we see this as an interesting or a coincidence, if I may, that he would so haphazardly, Twitter would so haphazardly push this distraction. That is a full of old news, if you think about it. And at the same time, Twitter is facing very real and very serious questions about the rising volume of anger, hate, and anti-Semitism on their platform, and how they're
So you are watching Twitter.
letting it happen.
Remarkable.
But what a terrible mood she's in today.
I know.
Wow. Did she just
Any
get a
plans in
topic?
Arizona to go to the border and see for the situation for himself there?
So look, I want to be very clear here. The president's trips tomorrow is about the American manufacturing boom. We're seeing all across the country, thanks to, again, his economic policies. Again, more than we have seen in his almost 2-year term. More than 700,000 jobs, manufacturing jobs, that have been created just here alone in the United States.
Any plan?
The manufacturing boom.
Yeah, I think we've all noticed how well the economic plan is working, honey, don't you think?
All right. Should we say goodbye?
Sure. The last thing I kind of wanted to say about
Sure.
KJP, and there's one clip in there where she talks about the Supreme Court case that's out right now about the website designer for gay wedding couples. Have you followed this? Because when they decided the Colorado Baker case, they did, decide it the right way, more or less. But they kind of decided on a technicality. They said that the Colorado board that was deciding it was biased against him, and so it didn't count or whatever.
Is that we can require businesses to service people? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So Corinne Jean-Pierre weighed in on this case today. You can play that.
If the president is not going to make time to visit the border during his trip to tomorrow...
Oh, no, that's
Not the right one.
Sorry.
Look, the Department of Justice said in its brief that for decades, non-discrimination public accommodations laws have coexisted with the First Amendment. Courts have recognized that we can require businesses open to public to service people regardless of their backgrounds, even when that means businesses must incidentally engage in speech which they disagree upon. Look, Department of Justice.
There you go. That's from her. It's the bake the cake bigot thing all over again. They're pushing for this. I mean, I think the Supreme Court is going to decide in favor of this website designer. She designs wedding websites, and she doesn't want to design a wedding website for a gay couple because she feels that violates her faith. I mean, I think a website design with copy and everything is pretty clearly speech, don't you think?
I would say so, yes.
So, and I think the First Amendment protects this person. Her business is her, right? It's just her. There's not she can't have someone who's pro-gay do it for her or something in the business. She's being forced to write up stuff that she doesn't agree with and publish it, And so I think the question really for the Supreme Court is going to be where is the line and how can we make a legal definition? And this is really why they kind of kicked the can on the cake one is because they weren't sure what to do, but which was such a lazy and just cowardly kind of thing to do with the cake decision anyway. What the courts need is really some kind of bright line from the Supreme Court of what defines speech, right? Is a flower arrangement speech? Can you refuse to make the flower arrangements for a gay wedding? can you like refuse to bake the cake that has rainbow layers? Like, what if it doesn't have rainbow layers? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so what's speech and what's not? Like, if you have to write up the invitations for the gay wedding, if you're a calligrapher, is that speech or is it just calligraphy? So, like, what the lower courts really need from the Supreme Court here is some kind of line that says, like, this is what makes it speech and what doesn't, like some kind of legal test you can apply to it, right? Mm-hmm. And I think this court that we have right now in particular is probably going to err on the side of more things being speech, which I personally think is good, you know. But like if you're a restaurant serving a gay couple a bowl of spaghetti and meatballs is not speech, I think most people would agree, right? You know, and the hardcore libertarians will say that we shouldn't even have those non-discrimination laws, that if a restaurant, say, wants to be racist and they're just a private business, that they should be allowed to be and just go out of business on their own, right? But, you know, I think we have a lot of non-discrimination laws that have stuck around for a while, and I don't think this is really at risk of happening to any gay people, but you know, I do think the courts have to figure out some kind of line between like what's a public service, like having a restaurant that's open where you can't turn people away because they're gay, and like, you know, where you're actually participating in their wedding ceremony in a meaningful way, in a way that violates your right of conscience. But it's only going to get worse because Congress passed this law, including a bunch of Republicans in the Senate, that essentially, you know, codifies gay marriage into law in a way that is going to only cause more of these cases to come, including, I believe, will eventually come to churches refusing to marry gay people too.
Well, that's the danger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that they feel that the language isn't strong enough to protect religious institutions. Mm-hmm. And language was brought in.
Well, yeah, and Mike Lee tried to add an amendment that would explicitly protect people's religious rights, and it was rejected. Right. So that tells you everything about where they're wanting to go with this law. Like, that tells you right there what they want to do. It's the same thing with, like, the Massachusetts, like, the trans bathroom law that they passed when somebody tried to add an amendment. It might have... but this was a few years back. I don't remember who it was, but they tried to add an amendment that it wouldn't apply to sex offenders, and the Massachusetts Democrats shot it down. Nope. Applies to sex offenders too. Like, you just have to question people's motives at some point when they like refuse these common sense amendments to things. Like, just explicitly say that people's religious rights are observed in this bill. And don't just say, like, oh, well, the First Amendment, the courts will work it out. Because, like, clearly the Masterpiece Cake Shop guy has been in court for, like, half his life now. And this website woman and everybody else. Like, it's not rational and reasonable to make everybody take every wedding vendor to the Supreme Court to figure out where people's free speech rights are. That's not a reasonable way to, like, handle your wedding planning.
Exactly. Well said, Elby. You look lovely today.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Leave more chat messages.
Uh-oh. Alice?
That's all I said. I didn't say anything else. I'll be nice.
Guys, make the princess happy. She wants more chat messages. Oh, my goodness.
Are you not playing closing music today?
I'm getting used to this software, Alice. It just took a second. Sorry about that.
If you want to come join us for Patreon live chats or bonus Patreon content, that's at patreon.com/burnbarrel. You can also always find the show for free at burnbarrelpodcast.com. That's also where you can leave chat messages. And you can, what else?
So would they hear commercials in this one? And where would the commercials be if they hear commercials?
Well, right now there'll be commercials pre-roll and at the end, and we have to pick a mid-roll spot. But I forgot. We should have come up with a spot and like done it, but we didn't. I forgot to.
Well, how would we know?
Well, I told you to come up with a spot. Well, I thought I was planning to tell you, and I forgot to tell you.
Running out of music. Can we table this?
Yes.